All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November 20th edition of the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be held remotely. And we'll start, and anyone who is joining us today, in order to promote more transparency and to be able to see everyone, we tend to invite our attendees to become panelists so that you can share your face with us, and you're welcome to introduce yourself. So while Vanessa does that, I think we'll start with introductions of the Urban Forestry Committee members. And so I'll invite us to introduce ourselves alphabetical by first name. So I think David's our first one today.
Hey everyone, my name's David. I'm the tree warden at Somerville and also a member of the Urban Forestry Committee.
And then I think, Joelle, you are next. You're also taking minutes today, so thanks for multitasking.
I'm Joelle Renstrom, a member of the committee for about 6 months now.
I think I'm next. My name is Leah Grossman. I'm one of the co-chairs of the committee, and I'm excited for all the tail end of fall color.
My name is Luca. I'm currently the sole youth member of the committee.
Am I next? I think I'm next. Hi, I'm Marion. I've been a member of the committee now for a while. I feel like 2 years. I don't know. And I'm already missing the foliage.
Hi, I'm Antoinette. I'm going to put a link in the chat because now is a great spring ephemerals in native ones, of course. So time to order your bluebells, and I'll put a link in the chat.
I think that's me. I'm Vanessa Bukili. I'm the Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner, and part of the committee, and still enjoying leaf piles. Need to do some jumping. I think we skipped Suzanne.
Oh,
Suzanne, can you hear us? She's connecting to audio. Well, I'll introduce Suzanne on her behalf. Suzanne Warner is here, a new member of the committee. I think this is her second or third meeting.
And send her a chat in the background and see if she's trying to connect here. Oh, and then Rob, you're right on time for the tail end of committee member introductions. So if you want to say hi, you're right on time.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Rob Van Dennebiel, associate member of the committee, and I'm going to introduce myself as an urban ecologist today, although I'm not sure I quite qualify, but I'm aspiring. I'm an aspiring urban ecologist.
Great. And then we will at this time turn it over to any members of the committee or any other members joining, or not members, sorry. Yeah, members of the committee and others joining us tonight. Feel free to introduce yourself, and that will also roll into our resident concerns. It looks like we also have some other city folks joining us. So maybe we start with those, I think, on the agenda for today. And you can
Sure.
just say hi, not to kick off your agenda item. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Justin Schreiber. I'm a senior planner in the mobility division.
Everyone. Luis Guichpe, Strategic Planning and Equity Manager at the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, essentially like a DEI practitioner for our planning department. I'm working with the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division on a project to look for ways to more deeply incorporate equity into their functions and processes. So I'm just getting to know some of the division functions, and I'm here just to observe.
Great. Thanks to both of you for being here tonight. Open it up to any other committee members of the community. If you want to say hello, feel free to share your video or unmute yourself, but it's definitely not required. And not seeing any takers. Feel free to chime in if you're able to connect later. We'll now open it up for any resident concerns. So we always, for new folks joining us, we always start our meeting with some space reserved for resident concerns, and this can be anything you see out in the world that you want to bring to our attention. It can also be resident celebration. So anything you're seeing out in the world relating to trees that you're excited about or want to share with the committee. While that's happening, I'll also drop the agenda in the chat just as a preview. And then I can share my screen once we're ready to move forward. So if there's no community members with concerns, do any members of the committee have resident concerns? I saw a hand that went up and went down.
Yeah, it's me. I just wanted to put in the chat the brick bottom inner belt bridge crossing point. There's a survey you can take about which one you prefer the most. This is a pedestrian bridge going over the tracks to connect the two. Not tree related necessarily, but just wanted to share.
Great. Thanks for sharing that.
Did you put a link to it in the chat?
Oh yeah, I don't see a link in there yet, but
Yep. No, I'm on it. Thanks.
great. All right. Anyone else? All right. So I think we'll move on to our first or any other housekeeping items before we jump into the agenda.
Sure, I'll say the youth vacancy. We do have one vacancy, as Luca mentioned, sort of. Anyways, it's posted and applications are due December 2nd, I want to say. I haven't had any youth applicants yet. So reach out to your networks if you know folks. There's, still some time.
Great. All right, so I think the first item up on our agenda is the Western Pearl Street reconstruction and one proposed tree removal at Ed Leathers Park.
So Justin's gonna present about the project and then I'll talk about the tree. I think you can share your screen, Justin.
Yeah. Can folks see the presentation? Okay, great. Thanks for having me here tonight. Yes, I'm going to talk about, I think, briefly about the reconstruction project, but to get to the proposed tree removal in at Leathers Park. So just a quick introduction. Again, I'm Justin Schreiber from the mobility team in OSPCD. We have a project team here in OSPCD with some of my colleagues, and we're jointly managing this project with the engineering division. Mobility is responsible for taking us through the design process, and then we turn it over to engineering, who bids the contract and then goes and constructs the street. So we're talking about a city reconstruction project of Pearl Street. We're calling it Western Pearl Street because we already did one of these on the eastern section of Pearl Street a few years ago. But it's just Pearl Street from McGrath Highway to Medford Street. I put the project limits on the screen here, outlined in orange. And this is through the city's pavement and sidewalk management program. So it is somewhere in between a like just repaving project and like a much bigger project like a Spring Hill sewer construction project. So it's not quite that major utility project. It's a little bit more of a maintenance project. But we are able to, do more than we might otherwise be able to do with this sort of project. So things like adding bike lanes or bump outs or trees are all, part of this plan. But it's not sort of a full, complete reconstruction of the street from the ground up. Um, this is a project timeline. We kicked it off the fall of 2024, and we had a virtual kickoff meeting. Since then, we've had two open houses. We actually held both of these in Elders Park, which is great to have them outdoors. And back in May of this year, we presented conceptual designs, two different options. And then recently, about a month and a half ago, we presented sort of a pre-final updated design at an open house. And we were just wrapping up the sort of last stage of input, sorry, before we take this project to 100% design. And we plan to share the design early next year. We hope to go out to bid this winter, and then 2026 and 2027 is the construction window. We don't know exactly when it would start in that window, but that's our plan would be, if all goes well, the project will be complete by the fall of 2027. And it could start as soon as next spring. It may start after that, though, depending on how bidding and contracting goes. I have the design here. I guess I'm going to go pretty quick since I don't want to take up too much time, and I know that's not the focus tonight, but I'll try to give a quick overview, and if I'm going too fast or if you have a question, please just go ahead and chime in. Um, we're proposing to change the intersection of Medford and Pearl so that it breaks up the block of Medford Street, and actually bends Medford Street. So the high school and the Medford Street Bridge is just off the screen on the bottom. Sort of breaks up that block with a new stop sign. We're adding a few raised intersections and crosswalks. And then we're also proposing here a two-way bike facility to connect to the one that exists on School Street. And that two-way facility goes up into Skilton Avenue. At that point, it becomes one way, continuing all into McGrath Highway. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is in just a moment. We're also flipping parking to the other side of the street for much of this project and adding some loading zones and accessible spaces. And moving on to the next section, this is near or around the Walnut Pearl intersection. We're proposing a raised intersection at Walnut Street. There's a little bit parking on the south side near where there's a thrift shop there now that folks may be familiar with. But primarily shifting the parking to the north side. And you can see on the south side here, that one-way bike lane, it's a sidewalk level bike lane continuing through, headed towards McGrath Highway. And then finally arriving at McGrath, essentially the same cross section, parking on the north side, flipping. Today it's on the south side. We've added a separated bike lane, and then we're ending just shy of Dana Street, near McGrath Highway. I guess I'll just pause for a second in case are there any questions on that, or I went too quickly, but if not, I'll keep going. So, a little more context, and I promise we're going to get to the tree shortly. We have a bike network plan that we consulted as we were going through this project. It is a plan that aims to provide a connected network for people of all ages and abilities to bike comfortably and safely. So, from a 12-year-old to an 80-year-old, the idea is that we want facilities that people feel comfortable biking in. And generally speaking, that's not with mixed traffic. It's separated bike lanes or really low volume streets. And then after we published that plan, the city council passed an ordinance that added some requirements that when a city does one of these projects, we're supposed to be working with the plan that we created. Pearl Street is designated for protected bike lanes in both directions throughout the whole length in the plan. However, it's one of a small number of streets where doing so would require either making the street one way or removing all of the parking on the street. So we have had a few experiences doing that in a couple other streets, particularly thinking of Central Street, where parking was removed. And we had some hesitation with doing that on Pearl Street because when there's no place for someone to pull over even briefly, we see vehicles parking in bike lanes on sidewalks, and sort of unsafe behaviors that are not desirable. So when we went and started this project, we shared this as an option, the one way in the street. We shared not one way in the street and removing all the parking, but then we also shared a third option that would try to use other neighborhood streets to provide the two-way connection and not providing it all the way on Pearl Street. And that is the option that we ended up working with in this project. So starting on the right side of the screen, heading eastbound, we provided that separated bike lane all the way from Medford Street to McGrath Highway. Going the other way, we are extending what we call a neighborway route, which is it's a neighborhood street that is intended for bike and pedestrians to use, but it doesn't necessarily have separate infrastructure. And these are often residential streets that sort of parallel more major streets, and they tend to not have a lot of cars in them. Gilman Street, for example, goes underneath McGrath Highway and has a portal under the highway. So it's been a long time popular route for folks trying to get to East Somerville because you don't have to cross McGrath Highway. We've actually had the neighborway signage in Ed Leathers Park in that central path for about the last 5 or 6 years. And what we did is we proposed sort of extending that existing neighborway by using Aldridge Street, and providing heading westbound using the neighborway, linking back up with Pearl Street, and then just for that last segment, we would do the two-way facility. And I've got just a larger image of that diagram that was on the left there. So on the top here, the light gray, that's the existing sidewalk. And again, it's been signed for a number of years as the neighborway. It's not really wide enough to support bikes and pedestrian sharing. I think it has worked previously because there isn't that much volume. But it's not ideal because it's only 5 feet wide and it can't really be widened because there's a lot of existing mature trees there. So we worked with the public space group to come up with a plan to repave the upper path as a shared use path and direct people biking up there. We actually already have a bike facility on Walnut Street that connects the neighborway with the community path. So using that, repaving the path through the park, bending around this one existing mature tree, and then adding a new bump out and curb cut to get down to Skilton Avenue. And then this starred location, that is the approximate location of the tree proposed for removal. And I think turn it over to Vanessa.
Great. So the tree that we are proposing to remove is, it's hard to take a picture of a tree when there's a lot of trees, but I outlined it there in red. It's a 8.5-inch green ash. So it's an ash tree, which means because of emerald ash borer, to keep it, we would have to treat it every other year for the rest of its life. It's in fair condition. Because of its relatively small size and it's being only fair condition, we haven't been treating it against emerald ash borer for the last 5 years, or 4 years, I guess. We last treated it in 2020. So it is subject to emerald ash borer at this time. It's, fair condition, so it's decent. It does have a bit of a strange structure because there's a bunch of poplar trees behind it. So it's hard to tell, but like the back side of the tree near the poplars. There is no branches that way. They all go towards the light on the other side of the path. Yeah, so it's not like a huge, healthy, full canopy. Um, it didn't have any signs that I could see of emerald ash borer infecting it yet, but it's really only a matter of time unless we start treating it again. It is, in the path a bit, so it is a challenge to work around and sort of inhibits the intention of the path. The tree in the background on the second picture is a much larger ash tree that we have been treating. So we did, as Justin mentioned, worked the path around that tree to preserve it, but I didn't see a need to do so in the case of this other ash tree. We also have a bunch of poplar trees that are a fast-growing tree we had to prune dead tops back a few years ago with our Parks Tree Health program, and some of those trees are showing more decline and huge cankers in the base of them. So we do have a plan to remove some of those trees. They're not part of this hearing because they're dangerous and need to be removed anyways, but just mentioning that to know that there will be potential for planting a lot more trees along this edge once we clear out those dying poplars. So I am planning to plant new trees in this area, potentially with the Mystic River Watershed planting grant that we've discussed in prior meetings, but a little bit dependent on timing. Yeah, that's all I had to say. So happy to take any questions about the tree or the plans. Luca.
Yeah, just wondering, so the in the park, it's like getting like repaved, to clarify.
It's just that upper path is getting a new treatment. It's we want to talk about what the material is, Justin. I forget.
Yeah, asphalt, normal asphalt path, and the goal is basically to not modify the path. We're using the path that's there. It's a 12-foot path. Um, there'd be a little bit of an 8-foot pinch point at that tree, but I think that's okay. And repave it, and we're sort of there's a fair number of roots, so the plan is to raise everything up, and go over top by a couple inches.
And the current path is, I think it's called schist. It's like ground up stone, basically. So it's not very accessible. This is actually one of the paths we talked about when Holly came to talk to us about
Yes.
inaccessible areas.
I should mention that the section of pavers, the intent is to keep that because it's in pretty good shape and it's pretty solid. There may be like tying it in, they may remove one or two stones, but mostly asphalt, but they're going to leave the pavers. And they're going to redo the sidewalk down by let me just go back a slide. Down where it meets Skilton Avenue. So the intent is that the accessible path of travel is that center path. And we would redirect anyone biking to use the shared use path. But again, it's shared use, so it's open for pedestrians as well. We're going to keep the benches there. Not planning on doing any pavement markings or anything like that.
Okay, thanks.
Rob.
Hi, I'm not much of an expert in this area at all, but I guess I'm just wondering, is there anything available or being worked on as an alternative to just traditional asphalt? I guess I'm just wondering in sense of obviously there's a lot of impervious pavement in the city already and it's less than ideal. I'm sure there's an expense, but I don't know. I guess I'm just wondering out loud, what, if anything, are people thinking at least these days about a potential alternative to asphalt?
Yeah, we we have there's a flexible pavement material that something we are going to use on many places on this project around the tree pits. Um, Ended up deciding against it here because all of the surrounding area is permeable. So it's like it's a question of how much value are we adding at the location where the path was. And then, for working with DPW to keep this clear in the winter, there was concern it wouldn't hold up over time to snow plows, to like the sidewalk plows. So and it also is quite expensive. So I think it was we discussed it and we decided on asphalt being the best option. And being in a park, the whole surrounding area it's permeable. Whereas on the street, we're sort of adding more permeable space to a primarily impervious area.
Can I jump
Leah?
in since nobody
Oh.
seems, oh no, somebody's, yeah,
So I'm just going in order, I think, but I don't know. Leah?
Mine was similar. I'm curious if the sub base under the asphalt is going to be a material that will help the tree roots that are going to be.
Mhm.
You mentioned raising the grade a little bit on those existing tree roots, so I'd have a little bit of concern about the impact there. And then, yeah, curious if there's other strategies to prevent, because poplars are pretty aggressive, and so they'll probably keep seeking out water where they can find it. So trying to find a solution that will ideally long term prevent the roots from poking through. And also, thank you for coming and giving
Yeah,
this presentation.
I believe it's a gravel sub base. And we've worked with Vanessa and the public space team to go through every route and figure out what we should do with it if we need to go over it. There are some dead roots, um, and there maybe need to be some like handwork by the contractors. So I think we're hoping to be pretty specific in the construction details about how this work should be done. And we'll probably be on site for some of it. Yeah, I don't know if Vanessa has anything else to add, but
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the roots are going across the path
Mhm.
towards the grass on the other
Mhm.
Yeah.
side. So they probably still will, but the poplars are coming to the end of their lives. So at some point, it'll be all different trees.
Mhm.
But yeah, the gravel will definitely give us the space we need without compromising the roots. So we don't have to cut them, and they won't be like buried where they'd be compromised by suffocating. Marion?
I wanted to echo the question like I've been doing a fair amount of uh biking recently, and there are so many places where there are very good high quality paths that are not paved, that are just gravel. Like the materials exist and it can be quite safe and quite smooth and rideable and so much less like of an affront to nature. Um, I'm just wondering, like, why do we need to, like, I know that there's plenty of permeable space around it, but why add asphalt where it isn't necessary, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that back to engineering and public space to talk more about it. I think you know generally we hear a desire for paved paths. I mean, you're right, there are stone dust paths that people bike on. Um, and we're also thinking about the plowing in the winter and snow removal. Yeah, I don't have a
I
good response other than I think it is the preferred surface for bike riding, although there's many people that enjoy riding on gravel as well.
To some extent, you create the culture, like if people are used to thinking that the only thing you can put, like, it's different if you're like, like, I can't take my city bike to like the Middlesex Fells and ride on those paths. But like well-maintained urban paths, it's done all over Canada. It's done in many parts of, in parts of central Massachusetts. Like there's plenty of examples of this being a thing. And I'm just saying, like, where pavement doesn't already exist, can we avoid adding it?
I would say there's definitely, it just looks different for sure. So there's the visual difference, but in terms of permeability, I think a lot of times this type of material, it compacts and breaks down over time and becomes less permeable. So if it was not asphalt, it might look like it's more natural, but it might not actually be providing over the long term any more environmental benefits, or very much more.
Is there no pollution associated? Like no like like none of the stuff that goes into that pavement ends up in the ground and creates additional pollution to the soil?
Don't think so, but I don't know for sure. Not that I've heard of, but I haven't looked into it. Definitely something worth looking into some more. Rob?
Yeah, I guess I'm just, yeah, so some good points were made there. And again, none of us being experts, maybe Justin, you and Justin probably know a lot more than the rest of us, but I guess just wondering, as a biker myself, I've come to the realization, as was stated, that we do need to figure out a culture that works for everything. Like I value trees as much as I value bike paths, and that does mean that there needs to be some flexibility, I think, when possible. Um, I I'm assuming that this is mostly shaded, so I guess there's no heat impact with it being asphalt. But yeah, I don't know. It just I guess I wondered too, like what other options are better than asphalt? And I guess I just don't know, but I do think it is worth at least thinking a little bit more about, or I guess we should all learn a little bit more about what are some alternative possibilities. And right, what, we need to get to a culture, honestly, where we think about cars, but we think about bikes, and we think about other people that need to be on paths, and we think about nature all sort of in an equal way. And I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I'll stop. I'm babbling.
I think we'll definitely speak to the people who know more than we do about this and see what their answers are. Does anyone have any concerns with the tree specifically being removed? Leah.
No, I think I think we're seeing a lot of the ash trees not making it, so I think I'm okay with that piece. I'm just gonna add the last note, just saying that this is so close to the community path. I know it is asphalt today, but it does seem like an ideal place to maybe test a non-asphalt path, due to the more, it's sort of a bonus cut through. I'm not sure if you've gotten a lot of requests for it to continue to be. I'm sure it's a well-used connection for neighbors to get to the community path. But knowing that there is already an accessible route through the park, this seems like it could be an opportunity to test something new, but I also understand that you're replacing an existing asphalt path that's there today. So wanting to do in kind. So I think I'm okay either way, but would be curious if it could be a test.
It's not actually asphalt now.
Oh,
It's like gravel schist stuff.
okay. Sorry. I misheard that. So yeah, I guess I'd advocate to keep the more natural aesthetic in this area, knowing that there are both a path through the park and then the adjacent community path. So if folks are really trying to cruise through or go through with toddlers or what have you, there's a few options.
Thanks, Leah. Tori?
Yeah, so just getting back to the path and it intersects with the trees. If we're raising the path, will that kind of, even if it buys us a few years, like mitigate the roots that are coming up and causing ADA accessibility, as Holly brought to us? So we're raising it up. We're having, well, when you're using schist, I don't know if you're, having sand and then what the layers are, but it is an ADA accessible material. So if we raise it up, can we buy time before the roots come up? And if we are cutting down some of the trees, and I imagine the poplars are perhaps a main offender of the roots, if we're eventually cutting them down, or actually near soon, those two factors that we can consider.
It's really hard to trace back which which trees the roots go to, so we tried our best to see where they go, and some of the ones that are going to remain are, at least some of them are attached to trees we think are staying. So the ones that we remove may have some mitigation in the long run, but there will be others that continue to cause challenges. And the raising it is so that we're getting over the current root structure and making it accessible. I think that was your question. So yes.
But just to clarify, the upper path will not be fully ADA compliant because of the
Oh,
slope down to that bump out.
oh,
So
gotcha.
that's why we're fixing the sidewalk like next to Skilton so that the center path is fully compliant. I think it will be mostly compliant, but the issue is the slope from that upper path down to Skilton Avenue. We don't have enough length to do it at the appropriate slope, even with handrails or anything like that. So it's obviously open to pedestrians. It's smooth, but it's not in terms of slope. It won't be ADA compliant.
Okay.
The center path, the intent is to make it ADA compliant.
So regarding, I must have missed it, raising the path and using the schist, is that an option? If we're raising the path, again, sort of like addressing the current roots that are there.
I don't know I don't know what the layers are needed for schist, so I can't answer that question, but it's something we can bring to our other piece of folks who know more about it. I think it might, I mean, it's not asphalt, so it tends to migrate, I would imagine, to some extent, but you just put edging or something. I don't really know. Or Leia probably knows better than I do.
Yeah, I think you still have a gravel layer below it that gets graded down and sort of crushed down into the ground, and then you have the final course, which might be a few inches. Since it is kind of on that precipice, it might be more of a challenge to keep it contained on the path. I think introducing edging would probably be more detrimental to tree roots in this space. If you'd have to go down, 12 inches to hold that, have a steel edge there. So I think I'd be more concerned, if the only way to do the, decomposed gravel or schist path would be to have edging, I think that might be more impactful to the tree roots than doing the asphalt.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is edging now, but if we're raising it, it would need to be modified.
Yeah, the edging's falling apart kind of too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to have a loose stone path that's sort of on a precipice like that. So that might be some of the reasoning behind the shift to asphalt as well. And also the concern about plowing. I think will tend to travel much more if that is on the sort of plow route for the city.
They'll be for the bike path, I presume.
Tori,
Tori.
go ahead. Oh, you're
Oh,
muted
you're still
still.
muted.
After 5 years, you'd think. So a couple of points, but I want to make them separately to give people a chance to respond. Could we look at the path again? And, just thinking about a potential compromise, even though I don't think schist is necessarily harmful if it migrates. It is a natural material. The one that's actually the photo, please. Okay. So I see that slope, and grass is not necessarily the best slope retaining material. This space has a lot of grass, and I know grass has different uses, but like, what if we on the slope added a few pollinator gardens, not all along it, so people could still run up and down or sled or etc. You know, I think that's an opportunity and a pretty low cost item. And one that we can, again, get Mr. Griver involved. And I know we have monies put aside from the participatory budget. So that would be my suggestion. Again, I'm still concerned about just, all the asphalt we have, but that might help just make it more pleasant, mitigate our concerns.
Yeah, that would be fun. I don't think that's part of the scope of this particular project, but definitely, like you said, we're looking for spots for pollinator areas from participatory budgeting monies. So that's definitely an opportunity we can look into.
Does anyone else have any sort of last comments? I don't think we give a formal sort of vote or singular opinion. We're just here to share our reactions and thoughts and experiences as individual members of the committee. So anyone else last words? Great. Yeah, thanks again for bringing us. We always get
I'm so
very excited
sorry.
to see.
I do.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
just
go
try
ahead.
to give people a chance to respond. So just regarding the trees, opportunity here, I think, to plant some oaks. And I'm trying to push the idea of planting things close together. Of course, as you mentioned, Vanessa, like let's say the ash, it's not going to be a full canopy by itself, but in combination with the trees next to it, it creates a full canopy. And just the idea of planting trees closer together, they're going to get taller, a bit more manageable in terms of size. So things to consider. And of course, I'd say let's go for all indigenous species for this one. And then
Absolutely.
I have one last comment, but I want to give a chance to people to respond.
Oaks was one of my thoughts too. Planted up one or two, or maybe many of us did in an Arbor Day 4 or 5 years back. Must have been pre-COVID. But anyways, I don't know. I don't think they're still there. It's hard to grow in the dense shade that the poplars create, but we'll have some nice openings. I don't know how densely I can put in new trees because of the remaining poplars, but I'll see what we can do.
Right. I swear my final thing, I wanted to comment on Pearl Street. So if I'd love the slides, Justin, if you could. One thing that has been really top of mind for me recently is the pending tripling of our water and sewer bills coming up in the next 5 years because of what is planned is a lot of gray infrastructure to mitigate the CSO, because we're not in compliance right now with the EPA. So I would say, tell me all about the green infrastructure along this street. It's just, again, some of these lower cost opportunities to deal with stormwater infrastructure, I think can go a lot longer way than we're really giving credit to, especially when it comes to cost to homeowners. And then, of course, that cost is passed on to renters. And I'm saying tripling. This was a presentation by Rich Raish the past couple, maybe 2 city council meetings ago.
Yeah, I think unfortunately this project doesn't include any green stormwater infrastructure. It's not a part of the scope of our annual streets contracts. So this is in like a Spring Hill sewer separation level of project. We're not really doing utility work at all. They're fixing the sidewalks and paving the street. I mean, we work with Vanessa to expand the tree pits and add new trees. Um, but there are no plans in here for green stormwater infrastructure.
Alas.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the new administration really buckles down and gets a lot more creative. And just in terms of like, this is all about, displacement and affordability and, who can live here. Because a lot of the homeowners who currently live here, taxes are so big because their houses are now valuated at such an increased amount. And then triple water sewer bills, that's going to affect people too. So thank you, Justin, for coming and answering questions.
All right. Any last comments from anyone else? All right. Great. Well, thanks again for bringing that to the group, and I think we've sent you back with some ideas and hopefully things that we can carry forward into the future as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So next up, we have our updates from the city. So we have city tree removals.
Yes, we have some city tree removals. We share. Right, so finesse this. So kind of a little bit of a bummer this month with some storms we've had. Let's see, we have 16 removals in total. First removal approved, 10-inch TBH Norway maple. Let's see, I'm gonna get everyone's in my way here. Just this is the tree that Tori brought to. So this is Shirley, heavy decline. And all my doodads are right in my way. Hold on. Okay. Heavy decline and also bummer of a stem. So this tree is going to go, and there is options to be replanted nearby. (162) Albion. Got a pagoda tree, 14-inch. Not a canopy loss, and basically the reason for approval is we've got about 6 feet of decay here, and it's going into the ground, and on the back side of the tree, we are starting to lose bark is sloughing off there as well. The tree leans quite heavily to the left, and yeah, it's not the risks outweigh the benefits at the moment. So we will hopefully replant nearby, kind of a tight section, but we'll see. 35 Bartlett Street was a storm damaged tree. Let's see. This is the storm damage after the damage occurred. What was left was basically this was the rip out. This was an old rip out at the exact same location, which left about, oh boy, hold on. About a 4 to 5 inch strap of wood holding up the entire canopy. So that came down very fast to mitigate the hazard, as that was a hazardous tree. Got 1039 Broadway, 18-inch Norway maple. This tree had the right side canopy, portion of the canopy removed. The left side of the canopy is doing well. Canopy is thriving, but the trunk is full of mushrooms and the bark is sloughing off. Due to the lean and unbalanced canopy, I can't justify the risk anymore. So especially since it's been brought to our attention by a constituent several times. So 54 Burnside Ave.
What does having mushrooms on the bark mean? Does that mean
Mushrooms
it's
on the bark
decaying?
yeah, so there's a secondary indicator of decay. Mushrooms will never be present if there isn't decay present. So when you see mushrooms, be aware that not all mushrooms are bad, but mushrooms won't occur unless there is decaying happening. So decay happening on the tension side of that tree is not a really good indicator, because that tension is what's holding up a hardwood tree. So that's what the mushrooms indicate. And then that bark also sloughing off means that it's progressed to the point of the bark not even holding on. So yes.
In addition to Ali's comment, if you're done, Ali.
Sure.
So I put in the chat snag opportunity. So this sidewalk looks like it is ADA accessible. And as we know, like that beautiful when we lose branches, trees have so many, their life after they die is just as fruitful as the life they live when their vascular system is going and they're leafing out, because it gives opportunities for our possums that I've seen fewer and fewer of. Like, God willing, maybe we'll get some owls in there. I just, perhaps this is not the ideal location, but I will keep bringing up snag opportunities for biodiversity and wildlife, and like mushrooms again, just like they're people too, if you know what I mean. In fact, I saw a documentary that talked about the influence mushrooms had on mammals being on humans being a dominant species, for good or for ill. So thanks.
So are you advocating for leaving the stump?
Yeah, advocating. Look, can we cut it off at like 10 feet? Snags, like,
Man, I
literally
hear you,
preventing.
but I feel like the person who lives in this house and all the people around it don't want to stare at a, a trunk. And that's like when I'm talking to people in neighborhoods about trees, they so quickly go to like a stump in their street as like their biggest concern. So I think if it's in a park, totally. But when like this is the only wildlife that someone sees, I just feel like we would be turning people off more than we're bringing them along. I'm actually more curious the other way, like how fast are we going to replace trees that we do take down? Because that, I mean, I know you're coming up to one that's on my block, and so like all the people around me are asking, how fast is that going to get replaced? And are they going to make it was a tiny little postage stamp. Are they going to make it bigger so that it's a more successful tree this time? And I don't know what to tell them, so I'm kind of curious, like, does it mean it's not going to be like it's going to be like 3 years before it's replaced? We're just going to be staring at a stump for 3 years and getting no shade and
I try to replace trees as soon as I possibly can. We do have a backlog of stumps around the city because we've had such high staff turnover and just a lot of tree work to do and backlogs and backlogs. So the priority has been on hazards and not stumps. I'm learning so much about stump removals from David, but it can take forever. It seems like to actually do the grinding, it can be like a whole day for a stump or more than one day for big stumps. So the priority has to be on the dangerous parts. But we're trying to come up with a plan. David's coming up with a plan. I'm speaking for you, sorry. To get stumps out this winter. And once the stumps are out, I will put a new tree in as soon as I can. I'm keeping track of them for spring. So, and always when I replant, they are bigger holes. The minimum tree well size that I use is 3x6, but I almost never do 3x6 anymore. I do 3x8, 3x10, as much as I possibly can. If it fits, I do it.
cool.
Mary?
It sounds to me like what Vanessa seems to be saying is that the biggest obstacle to replanting is the stumps. But I was wondering, is there any opportunity either on the stump removal side or on the replanting side to create some kind of partnership with neighborhoods or with neighbors, like where if the city has too little capacity, the city could instead, like, I don't know, like give X amount of money to the residents of, for them to do it if they have a strong interest in doing it and they have the resources to do it or something. I don't know how it would work. I'm just like really just trying to think of like, because there's a lot of people who cared, like when you lose the street tree in front of your house, you care enough that quite possibly if the city let you and encouraged you, you'd get a tree service in there yourself.
We have permits for having property owners who don't want to wait forever to prune a public tree. They can apply for a permit to do that. I haven't thought about it for stumps, but maybe that's an opportunity we could look into. I know some people occasionally take it upon themselves to chip away at large stumps in front of their houses, but yeah, we don't necessarily encourage that, and not everyone has that ability. And I don't know. I mean, it's a lot more than just chipping away at what's above ground. There's a whole issue underground.
Yeah, you kind of
So
need a
maybe,
machine, right? To
yeah, you
grind
need a
it
stump
up.
grinder, so you'd have to hire like a tree service to do it. And there are rules, like you'd have to do dig safe and blah blah blah. So maybe a longer term thought opportunity. It's not something we could turn around tomorrow and figure out, but maybe.
I'm more just
And
trying to think of like every this is kind of one of my recurring themes of like to what extent can we work with neighbors to figure to get them to create opportunities for people to take ownership of these things themselves. And there may be tasks like the stump removal that is just like it's much safer if you do it, but like maybe they could get a tree in there faster.
I mean, I don't want them to plant trees with no. Say no on that because it's got to be the right tree. I can make the hole bigger. It's not a delay from me not having enough trees available. That's not a problem. If there's a delay in me planting, it's because there's a challenge in the situation. Either there's a stump and I can't plant right at the same place sometimes as the stump, but I wait for the stump to be ground so I can plant nearby, so that there's accessibility. Sometimes there's sewer in a lot of our sidewalks, especially in East Somerville. And so that I'm trying to figure out a policy of when I can plant a tree when there's a sewer in the sidewalk. Planting the wrong species in the place, the trees become our problem. They're street trees, so
Yeah.
we have to take care of them. I saw someone, I don't know where it came from, but like a pin oak under a power line, like that's just going to be a problem for us
Mhm.
in the future. And I just can't. It's more work to manage having someone else do it than for me to just do it myself.
I hear you.
But I do like, adopting the tree wells, or there's definitely other ways to get people involved in other ways. Absolutely.
Tori?
Jeez. Yeah, kind of, Marion, something you said sort of inspired me. Like maybe if someone gets a tree removed from their house, that maybe that's an opportunity for sort of the Mystic River watershed, like that program, to plant a small tree appropriately sized. Really big fan of pagoda dogwoods, and maybe a red bud lives there. So I know you guys are sort of focusing on East Somerville, but maybe when this occurs, that could be an opportunity for someone to be like, free tree, I'm in. And then a quick point to Allison, your point, like, is someone going to want to look at a snag versus looking at a tree? Like, yeah, I agree with you. And then I think about what Marion said, which is sort of being able to change our expectations of what we see in the environment. And like, yeah, so there was someone several months ago, maybe a year, posted a picture of a snag in London, or maybe it was someone who went on vacation there. And it was like, yeah, this is a snag, and here's what it does. Good conversation.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. That's why I think it'd be great. It's great to see them in parks and maybe even to educate people about ones in parks. But when it's like someone's real estate, or it's just the one tree that they see on their block, I don't think we're going to get everyone on board that quickly, you know.
Last note, if you want a little field trip, there's a great snag on the Rose Kennedy Greenway downtown. And it has a nice little plaque and it explains what it does. And I think it even has a animal house of some sort in it. So it's happening and let's make it happen more. But yeah, let's also keep trying to keep us on track here. We're just about an hour in, so I want to make sure we have plenty of time to discuss how we can keep making all of these initiatives happen. So back to you, David.
Yeah, and I'll just follow just a last note about stumps. Um, it's a multi-department task to get stumps done. Uh, I have to get someone out to do them. So that's the grounds department and tree department. Highway, a different department has to break out those panels, break out that concrete around those stumps off most of the time in order to get that stump grinder in there. So it's a lot of work for us to get it done, and it could be a lot of work and probably not a lot of people willing to let their fingers off of that stump grinding. I wouldn't get your hope up about stump grinding in the community anytime soon. And just this week or the last few weeks, we're working on a stump they're on their 5th day trying to get it taken care of. So that's like 4 full days of stump grinding. And anyways, they're not all that bad, but they can be kind of demoralizing. So let us move on to Burnside Ave. This tree has about 40% canopy loss, not enough to approve the removal. I've actually been trying to keep this tree, so we've had a lot of dieback up at the top. We've got some sort of fancy pruning that happened a while ago before my time, but the nail in the coffin was the root system is not. I've had my eye on this since July or August. It's got a significant amount of root rot and I don't believe we can keep this as an acceptable risk anymore. So 54 Burnside, 18-inch Norway, 14 Clyde Street. Oh, this is just pretty much fully dead cherry tree. Not sure about replanting near there. I just took that out
Sidewalk's
of
too
my,
narrow. I can't.
yeah, and there's stuff going on.
Oh no, can we put it on somewhere else on the street? There's no trees on our street.
That's because the sidewalk's too narrow. I
know.
can't. Private
Oh,
property?
Sorry, Allison.
That front yard that you showed, if you can show it again, that
I talked to
might be
them. They
okay.
don't think that there's space, but they told me to put trees behind them. So we did plant a couple trees right behind here.
Well done, Allison. Well done.
Yeah, but oh, that's really sad.
It's a nice pine tree there.
I know. I love that pine
A great
tree.
pine tree. Just keep it tipped in, and there won't be any issues.
What do you mean
Not-
tipped in?
just keep by tipping it, just like keep tip pruning those, because that pine will kind of want to do this. So just keep tip pruning that pine. In small little increments won't be a big deal. Keep it from breaking out and keep it in that tight little spot. But yeah, very, very manageable. 93 Electric Ave is what happened here. Oh, so we have fortunately a sugar maple that has some pretty significant decline. It's got a really heavy lean, pretty heavy lean, and then what I really didn't like about it is a brand new sidewalk and curb on the not on the supporting side, but on the leaning side. And so it's leaning into the wires, brand new curb, and over 50% canopy loss. 8 Heath Street. We've already gone over this one actually in the past, so I won't go there. That was the tree that somebody had vandalized and completely girdled. I finally just put it up for, kind of wanted it to lose its leaves, and whoever girdled it to not have the leaves in their gutter will still get a few leaves in their gutter. No, that's not a good reason, but I finally have put it on the removal list completely. 125 Jacques Street, and not even a 2-inch tree. I don't think I even put that one on there, but it is in removal nonetheless.
Jake Street, by the way.
Jake Street.
I know. I don't know why who
Okay.
thought that's how you spell Jake.
I wanted to
that's
sound
what I
fancy.
say. I know.
Lincoln Street, 9 Lincoln Street is a very far gone maple. It's just a wee bit of canopy up there that is no longer a canopy, but just some twigs. '11 Linden Ave has a canopy that's dying back. Not the main reason for the removal approval. Not to rhyme, but the trunk is doing what lindens sometimes do. It does have some woundwood coming back, but the main reason is there's a horizontal crack forming on the about 4 or 5 feet up, 5 feet up, and that is surefire way to get removed. For those who don't know, horizontal removal, vertical crack, not so bad. Horizontal crack, very bad. So Linden 38 Meacham, storm damaged tree a few weeks ago. We lost the right side of this pair, and there was no too hazardous to keep. Fortunately, it was a nice tree. 45 Moore Street, So I've had my eye on this since I started, and I had somebody put a request in to have it inspected again. So going down the list, it's got some pretty deeply included bark on the left side leader, or between the left and right side leader. On the back side, we have a leader that has included bark, and then right below where that leader is attached, we have a cavity. So it's kind of getting hit from two directions, basically only being held up right here. That's the smaller of the leaders. And then the top has died back. So these tops both need to come out. Say, if it were to just be pruned, these tops would have to come out anyways. And then this is on the right side of the tree, a pretty significant, you could stick a whole handsaw down in that decay. And then this is an actively splitting leader along the right side. The split goes down here, and you can, yeah, so that leader would have to come out. Those tops would have to come down in order to keep the tree. And then there's still mitigation by weight reduction throughout the whole tree that would still need to be done. And at that point, it's no longer a viable canopy. Monroe Street, we had a storm damaged maple in the little green space there. Some illegal pruning took place at some point, which took out about a third of the canopy. And this storm damage took out about a third of the canopy. And that only left this portion that's hanging out over the sidewalk and a little bit of the road. So fortunately, Norway maple has to be completely taken out.
So sorry
Yep.
to interrupt. That's
No
on
problem.
Prospect Hill Park. Is that on a neighbor's side of the park? It looks
This
like.
is on, so you can see the neighbors start here. This is right here is where that road curves down.
Yeah, yeah.
The tower is up here, top side.
Mhm.
And so this is just the very bordering, this borders all the private properties right there. So it's one of the first trees, the third tree in, I think, 1, 2, 3. So
Okay.
still
Opportunity,
there. You're welcome to go look at it.
opportunity to get some native plants.
Yeah. And coming to the end of it, Somerville Ave, 474. I don't have a picture that my picture, but this is an old picture. I can just explain. Basically, more than 50% of the upper canopy has died back. And yeah, we're going to try to do something there, but not keep that tree. Selkova, another, well, not storm. So I drove out the other day to go pick up a limb that somebody said was by the bus stop, and I discovered, I think a bus, something hit this and split it wide open. This was a Friday afternoon emergency removal, so the tree has been removed. This is by Myrtle Street and Washington Street, so the Myrtle Street bus stop. All She Wrote Books is right there. Yeah, so a few more removals than we'd like on the list this month, but all right.
Great, thank you.
What's our net planting versus lost trees on a given year?
I calculate it for our Tree City USA application every year. I haven't done the last year yet. It's due in end of the year. But every time I've counted it, we're positive. Some years more positive than others. But
But of course, we're losing mature trees
Yeah.
and then replacing them with new ones. So
Yeah, so caliper inch definitely decline.
Could we add the update to our agenda for next month? If
It's
it is
due by the
before
end
November?
of December, so
Okay.
January for
January.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Unfortunately, next we have private tree removals and exemptions, so more removals, and hopefully we'll have time to get to the more optimistic piece of our meeting soon.
Well, I'm going to, it looks like there's no updates on the spreadsheet from last time, so I know there's been some exemptions and remote and a few permits issued, but I don't have a list handy, so I'd
Okay.
love to table that to next month if that's cool.
Yep. I think that's Tori.
Yeah, quick comment. David, you are so entertaining, and I just want to say tension side, bark sloughing, tipped in, and deeply included or occluded?
Include.
Included.
Yeah.
Just got some that's great information. I'm not an arborist, so this is
You're getting an arborist lesson now.
it's
so well done.
and like gesticulations and like very appreciate that.
yeah,
And
I'm loving this.
isn't it
It's
just
such a nice addition,
yeah, so
even
fun.
though it's sad we're losing them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have to bring all bad news, so I have to make up for it. So.
And just my final comment on this is I'm going to put something in the chat. It's about using Epsom salts to degrade a stump. And David and Vanessa, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's a thing, or somebody says it's a thing. So I'll just post that.
And Rob, so you put something in the chat too.
Yeah, I dropped in. I actually had a picture from my trip to the Greenway a month or so ago of that tree snag and the really cool signage that they put up. If anybody wants to see it, it's in the chat. And then this past week, I also had a chance to read a short but interesting article about a BU researcher who's trying to help figure out why life is so difficult for city trees. And it's interesting that one of the theories was they're exposed to so much more pollution of all different sorts and types. So again, I dropped that in the chat if anybody's interested in just one last thought. It's not really for this committee, I guess, but Tori made me think about it with her Epsom salt comment, which is I know that in Cambridge, there's been some transition to using salt brine on the roadways in many neighborhoods, which I think is significantly less impactful to street trees. So I don't know if Somerville does it, but hopefully they do it. If not, maybe they could look into it.
As opposed to what?
Just straight up salt.
Chunks of salt.
Yeah, like it smells like either pickles or like rotting garbage. But it's great that it's happening.
Sounds delicious. Yeah, we do. Our highway superintendent is very proud of his brine. I don't think it's all of the city, but he has a big tank, and they do
Yeah, and I
do
think
that. I think it's beet juice, I want to say, or is that the Cambridge one? Someone has beets.
I know that, and just to add that I think it's a third of the amount of actual salt that's used when you do a brine. So it is a real savings in a lot of ways in terms of the wear and tear on street trees, etc.
Probably on vehicles too. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
I just wanted to say real quick that this whole looking at at all these trees that are being damaged, every time I go for a walk, I see both damage and all the trees that have to be cut around power lines and all of this, and it really reinforces to me the need to take more holistic approaches to policy and to how we work things, and like we need to start really, like, we have a new administration coming in January, and it would be really good to have a very clear message for Jake that really, like, this is about climate resilience, this is about biodiversity, this is about quality of life. that we need a way to structure things so that because all these street trees, every time you plant a street tree, if it's near a power line, I mean, do you just like avoid them entirely, Vanessa, or what do you do? Because I see some power lines around with young street trees on them.
Oh yeah, I
They just need to
plant
be
under power
small.
lines all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just trees that will only get to be 15 or 20 feet tall, so we won't have the V cuts like we do now.
But like we shouldn't we shouldn't have power lines like every opportunity that we have to put power lines underground, we should be doing at this point. And it has
Absolutely.
so many other benefits. And like we need for biodiversity and for heat resilience for us and for all sorts of reasons, we should be able to plant giganto trees that will never bump up against anything. And
I
yeah. And we need to
think
start
that's
like just making these connections a little bit more explicit when we talk to people who have an opportunity to make choices, I think.
as with most things, the challenge of burying power lines is complicated and very expensive. So, yes, they should
As
be
is
buried.
maintenance on them if something
Mhm,
goes wrong. You
that
can't
too.
really do anything with it until you dig the whole thing back out again.
Yeah. So it would be nice if there was a different situation that we were in where we didn't have to deal with power lines and narrow sidewalks and houses abutting the sidewalk. But that's not the reality we live in Somerville. So I think we need to also figure out ways to work around what we have because that's what we're going to have for the most part going forward.
But like we've done all these major road reconstruction projects and we continue to do them. We could probably for a much, much smaller incremental cost than it would take to do everything at once. You know, like if we have to dig up our entire roads to build our to bury our power lines at some future date, it's different than if we're like every single time we dig up a road, let's see whether we can also bury that power line. Or not
Yeah.
necessarily all of them, but like for all the big projects and stuff like that, like finding opportunities. It's just like we need to start thinking of this as something that just like, are we going to do it? Just like now you automatically are building in like, can you do more trees or can you know, these are things that were not natural before. We repaired sidewalks and we repaired roads for decades without doing things that you now do by default. And the defaults can change in ways that are much greener and much more climate
Yeah.
resilient. I mean, the storms are bad.
It's just way easier to leave a hole in a sidewalk to plant a tree than to bury a whole row of power lines. But I do think that on the huge projects, it is thought of like East Broadway doesn't have power lines that's buried underground. Beacon doesn't have power lines, but it's a, a much longer process when you do that, much longer. So then you have to deal with the streets that you have now while you figure out the process. And it's, Eversource has to be involved and all the other utilities that are already underground. So it just really drags on everything. It costs, I don't know, 10, 100 times more. I don't know how much more, but so much more. And then, as Allie said, there's the long-term maintenance issues. So I think it is something that people think about and consider, but it's hard to actually say, yes, this is the right move for this whatever street.
I do think your idea of like Jake's coming in, is there something that we can do as a committee more than what we do now? Like there were definitely a lot of complaints going into the debates about how long it took to approve development in Somerville. Is there something that he could delegate to the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee to do like assessments of the trees or the greenery around a building or something that could help speed up development approval? Or maybe we don't have the authority, but by having like a green light from the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee, it's like really helpful. Kind of like they thought they wanted to give, so there was some debate about whether certain square councils should have more say. And I think that's, there's like pluses and minuses. You don't want a few people on this council holding up development. but also maybe getting them involved in having like a stamp of approval could like expedite people's willingness to approve a development. So I feel like I don't know enough about how the city works and development projects get approved and how many approvals need to go into it. But if there is something that we could like take off the plate or help speed it up, maybe he would be open to that.
Good idea.
I'm wondering more
Not sure what it
broadly.
would be. Go ahead.
I'm wondering more broadly about whether like we actually should have some, and like this almost feels like, I don't know how to, like it would probably, I don't know how, I don't know how we would structure it, but like to really start thinking about like things that the Urban Forestry Committee would like to tell the incoming administration collectively. Because I also think about like how many times we've talked about how all these new parks are being built and they're just paved to the gills, you know? And there's a lot of additional things that we could be doing, I think, that we could do better in the future. And maybe not everybody on the committee agrees on these things, or maybe we have different perspectives, but like just even having those conversations about like where could we do much better if we were more ambitious and if we were more ecologically conscious is something that this might be an opportunity to provide sort of broader advice than like, is it okay to chop down that tree?
Yeah, so I think these are all really good conversations, and I don't want to like cut it off in any way, but I think if there's a way we can activate it more, like this sounds like it could be a subcommittee and a few folks who are interested can like put together ideas around this and then we can bring it back as a more full agenda item because I think we got here in a little bit of a roundabout way and I want to make sure we still get through all the other things we want to talk about today. But I think there is some real opportunity here. And also when I see Anne, your hand up, so I want to give you a chance to share as well. And I think you're still muted, but we can see you.
I mean, Cobble Hill and the city's ownership of the park is, I hope, you think a continuing place to put pressure on the city because it's not guaranteed that the green space will be saved. And I'm going to a zoning meeting after this. And I'm not particularly well qualified to speak on the topic at all. But it's endangered. And there are a lot of trees at Cobble Hill. And this might be a place for you as a group to consider the kinds of actions. And I'd love to hear what they might be because zoning is one possibility that the city may decide to zone for green space, which might protect it from developers. But the degree of attention that's required to make sure that that happens is what concerns me the most, because it requires a lot of close attention.
To both points, very quickly. So from just what I understand of Jake, he's putting together his transition team and he's going to have listening sessions and it's going to be very intense in December, especially. So, I can keep an eye on these committees that are forming and I think it makes perfect sense because he wants advice on policy. So I think it makes perfect sense for us to sort of get our thoughts out, and it has to be soon, to advise on Cobble Hill for all of the things we're concerned about. So I'll let you know as things progress, what committees are forming and public listening session.
Good.
So that's all.
All right, so I think to move forward in our agenda, we have fall tree planting up next.
Yeah. Fall tree planting is progressing nicely. We have made a lot of headway. We are still planting this week, next week, and probably into early December. All of the planting sites are now up on the Urban Forestry website. I just put a link in the chat to the fall tree planting map. It's all throughout the city. We were able to get a good number of container trees this year, which is different from what I usually do, but did allow us to get more of the commonly called fall dig hazard species than I usually get in the fall, which was good. So I did end up planting a fair number of oaks and other fall dig hazard species. I was just looking at my totals. Um, we're planting 67% native trees. That does include some park projects, so I'm not sure what the percentage is on streets, but I got a lot of native trees in the ground, or I'm getting them in. So happy about that. Lots of a good number of Cercis red buds as well. 10 red buds, so I'm hoping they do well because I've seen mixed success. But I fingers crossed I'm putting them in the right spot. So that's the fall planting update.
Exciting to hear. And did those go out with, are they candidates for Adopt a Tree yet?
As I check on them after they're planted and putting up the signs. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, I think that brings us to ongoing work updates. So I know for the first one is outreach, and I believe there was a Summer Streets event since we had our last meeting. So wanted to hear how that
Suzanne
went.
went to represent.
Hmm?
Suzanne was there.
Amazing.
Yes, I was there. Um, it was a great event. It was a beautiful day, really huge turnout. I did a quick craft with the kids. They really enjoyed making like leaf etchings, and I gave out a bunch of English and Spanish like leaf scavenger hunt handouts too. Um, it was really cool to hear probably like 10 different languages of like families chatting to each other. And then that was just making me think about like what resources we could provide, what kind of public outreach resources we could provide in other languages. There was a lot of interest in the pollinator action plan, and kind of those visuals I think are super helpful, but potentially having that in other languages could be really cool too.
Reach out after you mentioned that to Allison to ask if she's looked into getting that translated. And typically our SOIA team, SOIA is Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs. They work on our on translating and interpreting documents. And that's a pretty hefty, like it's smaller than the pollinator action plan, but pretty big for having completely translated in 7 different languages. So they like to think about it more holistically of what types of information and how to present it in a way that's more useful for the communities that it would be serving. So I think, the more information we can gather about who's interested in this and like try to figure out the best way to get the messages to them, would be a great next step. But I love that they were all interested.
Just going to say that I'm available and happy to volunteer to do translations to Spanish, and I do this professionally many times. Can't do the other languages, but having stuff in Spanish would already be a big step forward, and I'm always happy to do it if anybody just mentions it. I hadn't thought of some of the stuff we've done recently.
That's great.
Thank you. Other outreach topics, or Tori, did you have a Summer Streets?
No, outreach.
Great. I got an email from the Winter Farmers Market, and so I filled out interest for that. Their survey only went through the end of the year, but I know the market goes through next year. So I asked if there are early year openings. I haven't heard back yet, but I'll reach out to folks hopefully when I do hear back. So hopefully we can slide in there. And then I know last year there was like a last minute opening, so having a go team, um, I'll just reach out if I hear anything. So that is actually, yeah, I don't know if we should do like a quick show of hands of folks who would be interested in going to the winter market, because I can't, I guess Vanessa, you could send it, or I could BCC to everyone and have folks respond to me individually. Maybe that's the best way, just because the dates will probably be sporadic. I'll
Yeah,
do
you
that,
can do that.
Rich, for now. Great.
Excuse me.
I was at the market on last Saturday and I noticed that like 2 tables or 1.5 tables could fit there. So I kind of wonder when we get our spot, well, we either might need, we can also, well, one, we can take up more room, and the other is like potentially pairing with another similar group to get information out.
Yeah, definitely. Um, great. Any other outreach ideas or topics for the moment? All right.
We have
yeah.
one more round of planting in private property for the Mystic River Watershed Association. Vanessa, I think that you sent out the survey in a few different, I don't know if it was counselors' newsletters or something, but might be good to send one final blast. I've published it to the Green and Open email thread and Facebook and Reddit. And it would just be good to get as many as we can since this is our final planting with that grant.
Oh,
So this
that's
is for
for the
people who
spring,
want to
right?
have, yeah, so people who want to get a free tree in their yard, they can apply and then we'll come scout and try to pick a tree that would fit the space and, sunlight requirements.
Maybe it makes sense to wait till the new year changes because there will be new counselors, at least a few and stuff like that. Or are you doing site visits already for the spring?
I don't know. I know maybe we can talk more on our meeting on Friday,
Sure, let's do that.
figure out what the right timing is. Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
great.
Is it still limited to East Somerville?
No, it's all Somerville.
Oh, I
Okay, what we did first is we have done two. We did a spring, then a fall. Now we're doing one more spring. We prioritized the ones in East Somerville because of the lower canopy. So we were only going to do 20 or 30 for the first wave, and then we did everyone else in the second wave. Every time we do it, we get a little bit smarter and more efficient with it. So I think since this is the last one, anyone who wants a tree should apply. And we'll do our best because it was a 3-city grant and the other cities just really didn't find as many applicants as we did in Somerville. So we've been trying to take as much advantage of that as possible.
And
That's
since we've been getting bare root trees, they're relatively inexpensive, so we've been able to do more. And because our ambassadors like Allie are so amazing and do so much work.
kudos, and perhaps it's an opportunity to go through David's most recent presentation on what is coming out to hit up those houses, to put in some canopy. It's what we were talking about earlier. Those people who are losing trees might be interested in getting a tree or
I have
shrub.
been sharing it with folks when they ask for a tree and I can't plant for certain any reason, I send them a link to sign up if they want.
Great. Our next agenda item is the UFC overview and startup question answering. And while we are a little tight on time, it looks like we only have one question left. Oh, wait, no, we have a few more. All right. Do we want to? I was like, if we have one more, let's just do it. But we have a few more, and I think we have a lot of other items. So, uh, if it's okay with folks, we can keep plugging. And yeah, next up is I don't think there's any updates for the species selection and planting protocol. Had a little bit of a summer break, but now it's winter and time to think, put our heads together. So we can think about that. And then I know the Most Wanted Weeds poster, Kala handed off, and I might have volunteered to pick that up. But I'm trying to
And
remember where
we touched it last
month too. I missed that.
I shared out a PDF of the of where it stands, and a few of us thought maybe it needs some more work, and we weren't sure what it was for. Like what it's hard to know how to change it unless we know where it's intended to go and what its intention is. So I'm not sure if maybe this is we'll pick it back up when it seems relevant to something that we're doing kind of project or what, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how useful it is in the form it's in now.
I think I can give some like context on how we got here, maybe. But I think typically we just bring it around to tabling events. And it usually draws a lot of attention. So I think just as an educational tool to have for folks who want to know what is popping up in their yard and what they should focus on removing or attempting to remove. So we probably do have a little bit of time. Winter, except for the winter market, is usually quieter in terms of tabling events. So I think it's a good time to get it refined, and then having it printed and mounted is probably the right way to go. We can probably also put it on our website, and then I know the idea is also to link it back to a lot of the other resources from Earthwise Aware and other groups who have a ton, almost thinking of it as a gateway, like a flashy poster to get folks excited, and then direct them to people who have spent a lot of time really making excellent resources, rather than trying to reinvent those resources ourselves. So
Great context. I didn't realize it was a popular item. That gives me some ideas of how to make it more useful myself. I know at the last meeting, me and Allie and someone else, was it you, Luca? I forget who else. Someone else was, it's in the minutes, was interested in moving that forward. So maybe
awesome.
we can meet with you too, Leah, if you want to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to help. And I think we also reviewed it with the Earthwise Aware folks. So I think sending them a draft before we publish and plot it would be good, just to see if they have contributions and make sure that we did I know we had some attributions because we did use a lot of the photos from their sites too. So awesome. Yeah, do you want me to initiate a
Sure.
meeting
Can
roundup
it
for that?
be, I'm taking a lot of vacation because I have a lot I have to use or lose. So
I think New
maybe
Year's probably
January.
safe. Yeah.
Great. Love that. Thanks.
Yep, that works. Yeah, I'll throw a reminder on my list for that. And that was Luca and Ali and others.
Am I remembering, Luca, was it you? Put more on your plate if it wasn't you. Or Suzanne, maybe? I forget.
Not exactly sure. Let me.
Most Wanted Weeds, if that doesn't
I don't
sound
remember. It
like
might
a
have been
thing, then
me.
maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was Suzanne.
And it doesn't matter
I'm
if it
happy to
was me,
join
but
too.
yeah.
Okay.
New interest is also very much
Yes.
welcome.
Oh, Marion too for the chat.
Oh, yeah. I'll include Marianne and I'll include Luca if you would like to join, but obviously no pressure. All right. I'll add a reminder for that. And then this is the part of the meeting where usually we look at open jobs and RFPs. So let me,
I looked at RFPs and there's only one and it has nothing to do with us. So
okay, great. That makes it easy. I feel like I saw they highlight the careers in like the monthly newsletter, and I feel like there was something. So let me just pop this open real quick.
oh, here. Oh,
Oh,
I'm
you
sharing
beat
my
me.
screen.
Amazing.
Yep. We do have the working foreman still posted, although we may not need it to be there. There's a project civil engineer, project manager in IAM. Residential decarbonization program manager. Interesting.
Sounds fascinating.
Senior planner in OSPCD.
Wait, is that open space and
That's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, which is my
right,
big
the super
department.
super group?
Super department.
All right.
Dilboy Stadium laborer, multiple openings.
Mostly recreation stuff.
Director of Water and Sewer. Has to do with
Ooh.
roots sometimes, but otherwise
Mhm.
not super related.
Cool. All right, so a few interesting semi-related opportunities. So that is exciting to see. Share it around. And then, all right, I think are there any other ongoing work updates or other subcommittee groups that have things in the ringer? It sounds like today we might have formed a new subcommittee for incoming administration announcement of UFC priorities, or invent your own acronym as you will. So we can maybe add that to our list to keep it on front of mind. But yeah, anything else? Otherwise, I think we're down to the approval of minutes for September and October.
I've got something really quick. So
Yeah.
on the champion tree list, we voted to approve it last week, but there was a request to put another question in for a picture. And when I went to do that, I think the only option was like, do you want to let people upload things to the form? And it could be a picture, but it could be something else. And it said, only do this if you trust who you're sending this survey to. And it made me pause a little bit because it is my personal Gmail drive, and I'm just not sure if I don't know. I'm not sure if I wanted to add that to the survey, but it is a little different than what we talked about last month.
My gut
So,
says no, thank you. You don't want a
yeah,
bunch
that's
of
what I was like. Oh, I could
X-rated
get a lot, and I could
pictures.
get something nasty in that. So maybe I'll just see what people tell me and, get their contact information, and maybe they've got a picture, or I can go get a picture when I measure the tree. Okay.
That seems
sounds
safe.
smart.
So I think that's it then for getting that thing published.
And I think if you don't want it on your personal one, we can probably host it on the UFC Gmail and make you a owner too. But
I'm
I
very
think,
happy to keep it because
okay.
it just makes it a little easier
Yeah, to
for me
interface.
to manage it, I
Yeah.
think, rather than being like, oh, I can't get in, like I lost
Yeah,
access
yeah,
and I haven't logged in like 6 months. So,
for sure.
and then
Great.
just putting the more official one on our G Drive every time we do an update or something.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And I was also thinking about the tree of heaven. You know how we have like a door hanger for something? What is it? Is
Black
it black
swallowwort.
swallowwort? Does anyone have the format for how they designed that so I could make one for tree of heaven? Because I want to put it on so many doors I walk by.
I can probably figure out what it is. It might be like an InDesign or some fancy program. Do you have fancy program? abilities?
No, I
I
don't.
I'm
I have
just guessing
InDesign,
it is.
so I could
Okay. Work
do that. I'm sure
together.
Suzanne does as well.
Okay, let me see what I can find and what format it's in, and then I'll take it from
Okay.
there.
Okay, cool.
And I've recently been sharing the flyer with folks. It's all, yeah, I love that it's online and public and a place that people can find it. Um, I feel like in sharing it, the only thing I want like a big arrow to be like best time to treat on our little like circle to be like prime time here.
Okay.
So we might have another, I think the one we have up there now is great and a wonderful resource, but I think as we evolve it, we'll probably have to shift some things around to format it for a door hanger. So I'm already thinking about ideas.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. Tori?
A brief yet important announcement. Our associate member, Rob Van Dennebiel, was appointed to Cambridge's Committee on Public Planting to serve a 3-year term. He says he will not leave us. So we're holding it too. And Rob, will you let us know when you meet, so we can spy on you? I mean, learn more things?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Cool. Awesome.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, and their meetings are the second Wednesday of every month. So the timing is really good. Usually they do like hybrid meetings in person and on Zoom over at the sort of DPW area on Hampshire Street. But yeah, I've been to a couple meetings and it's cool. I'm learning a lot and I'll be excited to yeah, share whatever seems relevant or helpful with this committee as well. So it's fun to see both cities and see what they're doing and learn from the different personalities. So
Is that a similar thing as this Somerville Urban Forestry Committee?
yeah, it's basically, I think, the same idea. It's the committee that's as well as they have like their head forester, they have superintendent sort of person, and then they have like an assistant forester who's in charge of all the plantings and everything. Um, so the meetings are usually pretty big, somewhere from 15 to 25 people, depending on what's going on. Our last meeting was pretty well attended because Reed Hillebrand was reviewing the 5-year urban forest plan, sort of telling us what happened in the first 5 years. And we're going to continue to review that as we form the next 5-year plan. So that was pretty cool to see some of the stuff that they're doing. So it's pretty neat.
That's so exciting. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to hear this. I I met the one of the co-chairs of that committee. I went for my work life, have presented to them and have a few more opportunities coming up to do that. But I was like, we should do an annual summit of like Camberville tree people unite. So
Yes.
I feel
That's
like
an
Yes.
awesome idea. Yeah, I think
you're our
that'd be a
gateway
cool
now.
idea. All right. No, I'm up for it. Yeah, that'd be really neat. And they have several, they have at least 3 or 4 of the people that have been on the committee for quite some time are either current or former landscape design type artist people. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's a cool group. Yeah, congrats. That's really exciting.
yeah, thanks.
Great. Any other super exciting announcements like that? I don't think you can top it, but great. Well, with a few minutes left, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. So the first one, September 18th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Can we approve them both at the same time? Is that legal? Motion to approve September and October?
September 18th and October 16th. And then looking for a second.
Second.
Marion will second, and then I'll just do a quick uh, roll call vote. And probably not going to go in order, but David,
Approve. Agree.
Joelle,
Proof.
myself, Leah, approve. Luca,
Yes.
Marion,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Tori, maybe I saw a nod, and you also made the motion, but you're muted. And then
Yay, yay.
lastly, Vanessa.
Yes.
And did I miss anyone? Sorry, the unmute always scrambles the order on the participant list. Great. So both those minutes are approved and they can head up to the website. Amazing. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. This is a really excellent meeting. And I think, are we still slated to have one in December? I don't know where it falls in
It's
the third Thursday is the
yeah,
18th.
it's the 18th. So
So it should
if we can
be
get a quorum, we're
safe.
good. Unless we want
Okay.
to take a break, also an option.
I'm fine either way. Great. Well, think on that, and we'll see you either next month or in the new year. Great. All right.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
Motion to
night.
adjourn.
Good
Oh yeah,
night.
motion to
Yeah.
join. I'll second that.
Motion to
Okay.
Thank
Motion
you.
to adjourn.
Yay. Bye, everyone. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.